They came over to my workplace to threaten me, but I refused to be scared of them. Your precious little daughter is going to jail whether you like it or not. Yell all you want. I'm going to testify against her. And on the day of the hearing, I fearlessly walked into the witness box and said my truth. I also showed the recording I took. It was clear. My sister killed the girl. There was no need for further argument. The judge decided to pass his verdict. 36 years in prison with no options for bail. If she ever tried to escape, she would be killed. I watched my parents wail at the corner where they sat, but I didn't budge. The girl's parents thanked me so much for helping them get justice. Speaking to them, I left the courtroom. My mom fainted at the entrance of the place on their way out and had a heart attack. She was quickly taken to the hospital. Of course not. A year later, they came over to my place to ask for forgiveness. Have you ever experienced being the less favored child? Being the one to watch your parents steal the world for their golden child? Well, I have. My name's Brittany, and I'm the youngest of my parents' children. My parents had my sister at the time when life was still rosy for them. They were both fresh graduates and had gotten good jobs without even struggling. They got married a year later and had my sister 2 years later. On the day my sister was born, my dad got a promotion at work, so it was a double celebration for him. As for my mom, the company she worked at granted her leave for a whole year and still paid her monthly for it. They thought my sister was their good luck charm, so they adored her. They spoiled her silly. My sister attended the best school and got whatever she asked for. She wasn't allowed to lack anything. Well, 5 years later, they had me. Unfortunately, my dad wasn't aware that I was coming that day, so he left my mom and went to work. That same day, he had a physical fight with one of the workers at the company where he worked. As a result of that, he got suspended indefinitely. It was on his way home that he got informed about my arrival. He didn't feel as excited because he was already having a bad day. Anyway, I was finally brought home with my parents after 3 days at the hospital. On the day we arrived home, my mom got a call from her workplace. Unlike the first time, she was only given 3 months leave this time and wouldn't receive any pay in those 3 months. All of the sudden happenings caused my parents to be devastated. And not just that, it made them start to hate me because they thought I brought bad luck to them. After 3 months, I was left in the care of my dad, who still hadn't been called back to work. My dad didn't care about me, and he didn't hide it. He would often feed my sister and hug her, ignoring my cries for food and warmth. As time went on, my sister also inherited the hatred. It was obvious that my parents didn't like me, and seeing that, my sister also showed her dislike for me. When we got to high school, my sister would bully me nonstop and laugh with her friends whenever I cried. One time, my sister came into the cafeteria during break, where almost everyone was. I was wondering why she was suddenly walking towards me, because the only time she approached me was to make fun of me.
Did you tell them you wet the bed last night?
Wet the bed? I'd stopped before I was even 2. My dad had forced me to learn how to use a potty at 9 months old. He did that because he was tired of having to change my diaper every time. In fact, my sister was the one who continuously wet her bed until she was 6. I was confused as to why she was finally asking me if I told my friends about something that never happened. What do you mean? I didn't wet my bed. I don't do that. I couldn't let her lie like that. It was annoying. I didn't care if she was going to hit me. All I knew was I wanted to stand up for myself.
Everyone! Brittany wets her bed. Be careful how you associate with her so you don't catch the bedwetting virus.
All the courage I'd mustered was gone. Hearing everyone laugh in the cafeteria broke my heart. I looked up and saw my friends laughing too. That broke my heart even more. In shame, I stood up and ran out of the cafeteria. I went to the bathroom and cried so hard. I felt so embarrassed. When we got home and I reported what happened to my parents, they acted as though they were deaf. Their eyes remained on the TV show they were watching. It felt as if I didn't even exist. That pushed me to more tears. Just as I was about to leave the living room, my sister came in. My parents, who completely ignored me about 2 minutes ago, were suddenly speaking to my sister and telling her what the show was about. I slapped myself mentally for thinking they would have my back. I retired to my room where I cried until I fell asleep. Life continued like that, with my sister being the world's favorite every time. When I finished high school, my sister was already in her 3rd year in college. I needed to pay a fee to apply for a scholarship exam, but my parents refused to give it to me.
We have no money to give to you. Go get a job. You're not too young to work.
You're 20 and asking us for money? That's so low of you. Get a job or forget about college.
Of course, I expected that. I mean, why would they waste their money on me when their golden daughter needed it more? It made me feel sad, though. I wasn't asking them to see me through college. All I wanted was a very little amount to use in applying for a scholarship. After their refusal, I checked the ending date for registration and saw that it was still 2 months away. I was so happy. I went out in search of a job, and luckily, I got one at a high school as a janitor. No, I never dreamed about being a janitor. The older workers there felt sad for me. They'd never seen a janitor who was young like me. Well, I worked hard. The workers were kind enough to help me sometimes. After 1 month, I got my salary. It was 10 times the money I needed, and that made me have second thoughts. I imagined how much money I would make in 6 months if I didn't resign. It was a lot. So, I decided to continue working there. I paid the scholarship fee, got registered, and then waited for the day of the scholarship. I didn't let my parents know that I'd been able to pay the fee. I asked him again 2 days after I paid with my money, but they lashed out at me.
Don't they pay you for the silly work you do? Use that for your stupid scholarship and quit bothering us.
Again, I felt bad. I knew they had the money. They were both just being unfair to me. Well, eventually, the day of the scholarship exam came. I was granted a day to be absent at work. I made my way to the school where it was to be held. It didn't take long to arrive there. I walked straight to the room. The exam didn't take long. We were asked to wait for another 2 hours to get our results. I waited. 2 hours came and the results were out. Luckily for me, I passed. I was granted the scholarship. My joy knew no bounds. When I got home and broke the news to my family, they all acted indifferently. I didn't get even the tiniest congratulations from them. Well, it did bother me a little, but I soon pushed it off to think of how to merge work with it. By the time school started, 3 months later, I already figured out a way. I'd stopped working as a janitor. I now work at a restaurant. I go there only in the evenings, and I only work for 6 hours. The salary is a little higher than the first job, so I was very comfortable with it. In my 3rd year in college, I moved out of my parents' house. My sister was already done, but she refused to work. My parents made me give my sister part of my salary monthly, and that made me angry. She also got into trouble many times with our neighbors. Rather than discipline her for her silliness, my parents would lash out at our neighbors, claiming they provoked my sister. I moved out because I was fed up with all of that. Life alone was peaceful and the best for my mental health. My parents didn't try to stop me. They didn't need me after all. At a point after I moved out, I stopped talking to them. They didn't bother me either. Life was going that way until I saw my sister beating a girl up one day on my way back from work. I quickly hid behind a car. The girl was already bleeding and looked like she'd passed out already, but my sister didn't stop. I pulled out my phone and recorded the scene. When my sister suddenly left, I went to the girl and saw that she wasn't breathing anymore. Out of fear, I ran away. For days, that scene was in my head. I couldn't believe my sister was a murderer. I wondered what the girl's family were going through. It was about a week later before I heard that the girl's parents were suing my sister. Apparently, the girl had told them she was going to settle things with my sister after they fought over a man. So, my sister was a huge suspect. I also heard that it would help them better if they had a witness and evidence. I decided to step in. The girl deserved justice. I didn't care about my sister going to jail. She and my parents never cared for me. I always felt alone with them, so I considered them strangers. I visited the girl's parents and promised to be their witness. I also told them I had evidence. They thanked me so much, her mom in tears. They couldn't be more grateful. My family got to hear about it somehow, and they were livid. They came over to my workplace to threaten me, but I refused to be scared of them. Your precious little daughter is going to jail whether you like it or not. Yell all you want. I'm going to testify against her. On the day of the hearing, I fearlessly walked into the witness box and said my truth. I also showed the recording I took. It was clear. My sister killed the girl. There was no need for further argument. The judge decided to pass his verdict. 36 years in prison with no options for bail. If she ever tried to escape, she would be killed. I watched my parents wail at the corner where they sat, but I didn't budge. The girl's parents thanked me so much for helping them get justice. After I was done speaking to them, I left the courtroom. My mom fainted at the entrance of the place on their way out and had a heart attack. She was quickly taken to the hospital. It was a very hard time for them. But did I care? Of course not. A year later, they came over to my place to ask for forgiveness, but I kicked them out. I knew they only came because they were lonely, but I refused to fill that space for them. They deserve to live in pain. I hear they live with 4 cats, and my dad has been diagnosed with cancer, so my mom takes care of him alone. It's been 5 whole years, and I'm now married to the love of my life. I still don't talk to my parents. In fact, I live in a different country now, where they'd never find me. My sister still has 30 years to spend in jail. By the time she's out, I'm sure my parents won't be alive anymore. As for my sister, she'd be nearly 70 by then. She'd surely be miserable. What can she achieve as an ex-convict at age 70? Absolutely nothing. I feel no ounce of pity for her. She deserves it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.
Why didn't you die in my stomach? Huh? I hate you so much. I don't want to keep on seeing you. If you do...
You see, that is my biological mother. Let me share my story. Hi, my name's Cherry Wilson. I'm 26 years old and live with my adoptive parents. They're the best things that ever happened to me, alongside my brothers. My real parents abandoned me 20 years ago, when I was only 6. Then I did expect to be abandoned. They'd threatened me with it countless times. My biological parents are people who don't believe that having female children was good. I was born after 2 years of their arranged marriage. My biological father's father was a wealthy man, same with my mom's father. They were both only children and already roped for marriage. To secure a partnership with them, they'd proposed marriage to their kids. Since they had no choice but to agree, they got married. Their parents wanted the house to be filled with male children. Both were demanding for a male, and my parents needed a son too. They believed a boy would make them proud. However, my birth shattered their hearts. Once, when I was 5 years of age, I overheard them arguing, and I was the center of it.
Well, I'm tired too. I never wanted a girl. I regret having her just as much as you do.
Then agree to my suggestion. We should put her up for adoption and pray for a boy.
We can't do that. People are going to talk. They'll tag us as the couple who couldn't birth a boy and ended up putting their daughter up for adoption.
Ah, I hate this. Where's that stupid child? Where the hell is she? Cherry.
Innocently, I walked up to her. My mother landed a resounding slap across my face.
Why didn't you die in my stomach, huh? I hate you so much. I don't want to keep on seeing you.
I was a smart child, so I understood what she meant. It wasn't the first time. I think I would have still understood because those words were like an anthem. Whenever she spoke to me like that, I couldn't help my tears. A month later, my mom fell pregnant. I got even worse treatment from them, as they strongly believed it would be a boy. The universe frowned upon me when the child was born, as he ended up being a boy. My little self panicked so much when my dad received the news through a phone call.
Get ready to leave our house. My wife has brought our real child to life.
Those words killed the child in me. I was left alone in the big house. The maids also regarded me as trash, so they barely paid attention to me. 2 days later, my mom returned home with the new baby. I tried to follow them in, but I was pushed roughly by my father.
Where do you think you're going? To touch my child? You're nothing to us. He's our only child, moron.
I was so young to be treated in that manner, but they didn't care. That night, together, they took me out of the house and threw me into the streets.
Leave our lives and never show your face.
I wish you would get kidnapped or killed, fool.
I was just a child. I cried and begged, but they turned a deaf ear to me. When I grabbed my dad's legs, he pushed off roughly, causing me to hit my head on the floor. I passed out immediately. I woke up hours later in a strange room with a strange lady there. I couldn't speak. The lady lifted me up and fed me. I had bandages around my head and arm. After eating, I had the strength to speak. I asked who the lady was and where I was, and she explained that she found me unconscious, on her way back from work. She worked at an adoption agency and had no choice but to bring me there. Another lady also came into the room. They made me feel comfortable, and when I was better, they took me to join the other children. They did try to reach my biological parents, but they gave their full permission for me to be adopted. According to what I eavesdropped from the conversation, they told the workers that I was bad luck, and they didn't need me. It was a sad period for me. I was barely 7 years old, but my little brain could already understand a lot. The workers helped me as well, to forget it all and begin life afresh. By the time I was 7, my adoptive parents adopted me. They were the sweetest. It was hard for me to loosen up with parents again, as I suffered from the trauma of my real parents' behaviors, but they worked hard in getting me to see how much they loved me. My real parents never sent me to school, but my adoptive parents did. Even more, it was an expensive school. Their whole family never made me feel like I was adopted. Everyone loved me. However, 4 years later, at age 11, my adoptive parents had their first real child. It turned out to be a boy. When I heard the news from my grandmother, I went into a deep state of panic. I was used to being loved by them, so the news of them having a son of their own brought in a rush of emotions. I wasn't happy because I thought my time in their lives had ended. My real parents abandoned me after they had a son, and I thought they would do the same. My grandmother understood my fear and immediately began to comfort me. She assured me that I was part of the family and they would never let go of me for anything. It was hard to get me calm, but it eventually happened. On getting to the hospital, I broke down again, but my adoptive dad was there for me. They told me I was their first child and first daughter, and having a son would never change that.
We love you, Cherry. Do not be scared. We will never abandon you.
My adoptive mom also comforted me. I held my new brother in my hands, and I became even calmer. Life was good with a new member in the family. My family ensured to show us equal love. I also showered my brother with love. Our family got even happier. At age 16, in my final year in high school, my parents had another son. This time, I was even happier than them. I was overjoyed to have another member added to the family. I took care of the baby like he was my own son. The memories I was making with them covered the sad ones from my real parents. I barely even remembered them. I was in a better place. For my high school graduation, my parents got me a car. I couldn't believe my eyes.
This is to show you how much we love and appreciate your presence in our lives, Cherry.
Thank you for making things easy and even better for us. We love you, baby.
I burst into tears. My parents pulled me into a hug, whispering comforting words to me. My friends congratulated me. I was happy. I took exams for college and passed. My dad had started a chocolate company, so I went into business school to assist in handling it. My parents were proud of my decision.
I'd wanted to ask you, but I wanted you too to choose what you want.
You're so thoughtful, baby. Your dad and I are proud of you and grateful for you.
I was glad to have made that decision. I spent 5 years in business school. By the time I finished, my dad's company had grown even more. I began working immediately as the vice president. My younger brother was almost done with high school and had told me he was also going to join the business. I began to train him immediately. My other brother aspired to become a medical doctor, so he cared less about the business. Life was going smoothly for our family. 2 years into being a vice president, we opened a different branch, and my dad handed its management to me. I was immensely grateful and worked hard to make him proud. And I did. In just 1 year, my dad's products were the highest-selling chocolate. One day, I got a private call from an unknown number. I was hesitant to answer the call. However, when the caller persisted, I was forced to answer. Hello? Cherry on the line. How may I help you?
Cherry, my daughter, it's your mom, darling.
I was confused. Why would my mom call me with an unknown number? Also, her voice sounded different and strangely familiar. I knew that caller wasn't my adoptive mom. There was only one other mother I had, my biological mother. I was furious. How dare you call me your child? Have you no shame? Why the hell did you call me? How on earth did you even get my private number?
It doesn't matter, Cherry. I need your help. Your father died 6 years ago, and his family sent your brother and me out. My family took me in, but they sent me out last year because their company went bankrupt. We can barely feed, Cherry. Your brother doesn't even go to college anymore, and no one is willing to employ a dropout. Help us, Cherry.
Her audacity was shocking. I couldn't believe how shameless she was. After destroying my childhood, how did she get the courage to call me again? I ended the call without saying a word, as I knew I would say a lot of hurtful things to her if I spoke. She continued calling nonstop, but I refused to pick. During dinner with my family, her calls still kept coming in.
Pick up your call, baby. Why are you ignoring it?
I was hesitant to tell her the truth of who it was, but I eventually did. I don't know how she got my number, but isn't she so shameless?
Answer her, darling. Help her out this once. You're good, unlike her.
It took 3 days, but they finally managed to convince me. I finally answered the call. I got her bank details and wired a large sum of money to her. Don't ever call me again. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I thought it would end there, but a month later, she called again.
I gave birth to you. You can't just abandon me. Send us more money. Your brother's school took more than half of the one you sent.
Send us some money, Cherry. I'm a man, and I'm going to be better than you in the future. I might remember to help you then.
That was it for me. I lashed out at them very disrespectfully and told them to never call me again. However, they didn't stop until I was forced to abandon the phone. A week later, they showed up at the company. She caused so much trouble, telling everyone that my adoptive parents kidnapped her child. I couldn't tolerate her behavior. I contacted the cops immediately. They were both arrested. I sued them for harassment and also defaming my adoptive mother by calling her a kidnapper. The court asked if I would accept a fine, and I agreed. My mother was fined with $8,000 instead of serving a 2-year jail term, and my brother was fined $5,000 for being an accomplice. I was satisfied, as I knew they would find it hard to pay back. The court gave them a period of 3 months to pay, or they'd both serve 3 years each with hard labor. My adoptive parents supported me, as they weren't in support of my mother's actions. Of course, my mother and brother weren't able to pay up after 3 months, so they borrowed from a biker gang to pay. I hear they are now on the run, as the biker gang is, after their lives, because they owe them a huge amount, so they change states every time and are depressed. It isn't enough punishment for their actions, but I was satisfied. It would have been even better if my father was alive to get his punishment. I learned he died after a fatal and gory accident. I guess the universe gave him his punishment. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.
I'm too scared to live in the same house with her. Send the cursed child away.
My heart shattered when my dad pushed me out of his house and his life, believing Melinda's words. I went over to my aunt's. She was disappointed in me, but also in my dad, who she thought was stupid. We let my grandparents in on everything, and they stormed my dad's house. Hello, I'm Liz, a real estate agent and restaurant owner. 10 years ago, I lost my mom. Prior to her death, our family was a happy one. My parents were the best. Their love story was interesting. My mom was an introvert who spent most of her time in the library, while my dad was an extrovert who was always partying. After college, my mom got a job at a high-class restaurant as a chef, while my dad started his own company. They'd both met one day, when my dad and his workers came to have lunch at the restaurant my mom worked in. They'd enjoyed the meal so much that my dad had asked to see the chef to personally thank her. Another time, they happened to come across each other at the beach some other time and exchanged contacts. What started as a normal friendship soon progressed to a romantic relationship 6 months later. They were head over heels in love with each other. They would go on dates, have fun, and simply enjoy each other's presence. Eventually, after 1 year and a couple of months later, my dad proposed marriage, and my mom was the happiest woman when he did. I can remember her wide smiles whenever she told me about that special day. After the proposal, he took her to see his parents, and they loved her. My mom was an orphan, and my dad's parents were kind enough to never make her feel that. Even at the wedding, she never felt the absence of her parents. There was love overflowing from every corner. According to my parents, my birth completed them. My mom had stopped working to make time for me. No, my dad didn't make her stop. She wanted to fully enjoy motherhood. Our family was beautiful. I attended the best school. I wore beautiful clothes and ate whatever I wanted. My parents spoiled me. Of course, not too much so I didn't turn out bad. I loved my family and prayed daily to end up with a man like my father. That wish died, though. I was 15 when things began to go bad. My mom was sick. She began to look weak and grow lean. When it started, my dad was away on a 6-month business trip. My mom didn't tell him about what was going on. She made him believe that everything was fine, but the opposite was the case. My mom wasn't doing well. Twice I caught her throwing up, and when I looked, there was blood there. On different occasions, she had to rush out of the dining table to wipe her bleeding nose. I was so worried, but I couldn't do anything but await my dad's arrival. Eventually, he did. After 6 months, my mom had gotten worse. He was shocked to his bones when he saw her. My mom had tried to act tough and smile it off, but I refused. I told my dad everything, and he panicked. He didn't even get to shower before he quickly took her to the hospital. I remained at home, praying for my mom to get well. That night, my dad returned home alone, wearing the saddest expression I'd ever seen in him. He sank into the chair beside me and buried his face in his palms.
Your mom is dying. She has an incurable disease.
My whole world stopped for a moment when he said that. It was like I suddenly went deaf and unable to understand anything. With no idea what to do, I burst into tears. My dad was also crying as he hugged and comforted me. The next day when we went to see my mom, she'd changed so much that I could barely recognize her. I felt so sad as it hadn't even been 24 hours, and she already looked that way. I cried even more, begging the doctors to save her, but they gave me a sympathetic look, telling me there was nothing to do at that point. I refused to leave her side. I remained on her bed, hugging her weak body to myself until she suddenly went cold. My mom died in my hands. I screamed and shook her violently, but she didn't wake up. I saw my entire world crumble before me. My dad held me as we cried. After her funeral, life was even tougher for me. My dad was barely home, and whenever he managed to be home, I would see him crying secretly. It hurt my already broken heart. There was no one to comfort me, and my dad was doing badly. I wanted to comfort him, but I hadn't even been able to do so for myself. Slowly, we began to grow apart. For a whole year, I barely saw my dad or talked to him. I returned to school, distancing myself from everyone and being gloomy all the time. My friends tried to help, but they all left because I continued pushing them away. I was alone. On my mom's first death anniversary, my grandparents, uncles, and aunts were present. I also noticed a particular lady who kept clinging to my dad. It was even weirder when he didn't push her off. Instead, he looked so comfortable. After that day, I tried to talk to him about the lady. I was 16 and still a child to him, but it didn't mean I wasn't sensible. The time finally came when he returned from a business trip. "Dad, I'd like to talk to you about something." He seemed uninterested, but I went on. I boldly asked him if something was going on between him and the lady, and the answer I got wasn't what I expected. Or, I'd expected it but hoped I wouldn't get it.
She's my girlfriend. She's been good to me and has taken good care of me since your mother's death. I plan to marry her.
Dad, it's not even been 2 years since Mom died. This isn't fair.
Who are you to lecture me on what's right and wrong? I'm your dad, Liz. Don't forget that.
I was heartbroken when he stormed off. 2 months after that discussion happened, he brought the lady home and introduced her as Melinda and also the new lady of the house. She began to visit frequently until she finally moved in 3 months later. I didn't like Melinda. She avoided me and I did the same, but I saw her being cruel to the houseworkers whenever my dad wasn't watching and I knew she was no good. My dad didn't care about me anymore. I hated how everything was going. It all felt so disrespectful to my late mom. For the first 4 months Melina lived with us, I ignored her. But she soon began showing me the cruelty she showed to the workers. She would lock the door and refuse me from going into my room. She would beat me for no reason. She also began making food unavailable for me. I was only allowed to eat once a day. But our kind maids were sweet enough to leave some food in the storage room, which I would sneak into and eat at night. Melinda was pure evil. She didn't hide it when my dad was home, and that hurt me even more. He watched as she mistreated me without doing anything about it. He would sit and listen to my loud cries when Melinda beat me up. He even accepted when she suggested that I drop out of high school. I stopped going to school and was at home, doing nothing other than receiving lashes and insults. Soon, Melinda announced that she was pregnant. I saw how my dad lifted and spun her around excitedly, not knowing he wasn't the owner of the child. Melinda was cheating on him. Many times, I'd caught her speaking to her boyfriend over video calls. I also heard when she told him she was pregnant for him and planned to pin the child on my dad. Her aim was to marry my dad, get him to will his properties to her son, and kill him. I didn't tell my dad. I didn't have evidence, and I knew he wouldn't believe the words of my mouth. He continued believing and trusting her blindly until she gave birth to her son. 6 months later, I overheard her planning to make my dad will the properties and also poison him, so I decided to step in. I reached out to my aunt, who had no idea what was happening in the house because my dad wasn't on speaking terms with her. She hadn't supported his relationship with Melinda, and that angered my dad. When I told her everything, she was livid. But I begged her to be silent about it. I wanted Melinda to leave with her son. With my aunt's help, we got a doctor. I managed to get a few hair strands of my dad's hair and that of Melinda's son. A DNA test was done, and I got evidence that my dad wasn't the owner of the child. In anger and without thinking, I confronted Melinda, showing her the result. It was a stupid move. She beat me up and took the test result from me, tearing it to pieces. In order to eliminate me finally, she lied to my dad that I'd tried to stab her in her sleep.
I'm too scared to live in the same house with her. Send the cursed child away.
My heart shattered when my dad pushed me out of his house and his life, believing Melinda's words. I went over to my aunt's. She was disappointed in me, but also in my dad, who she thought was stupid. We let my grandparents in on everything, and they stormed my dad's house. After much back and forth, he agreed to have a DNA test. Of course, Melinda tried to convince him, but it was impossible. My grandparents forced him. Until the results came out, my aunt and grandparents lived with us. Melinda was visibly disturbed, but there was nothing she could do because my aunt took everyone's phones. She couldn't contact her boyfriend, neither could she leave the house. 3 days later, the result was finally out. Of course, my dad wasn't the father, he was broken. My aunt wasn't going to let it slide. She pounced on Melinda and began beating her up until the lady finally confessed her plans on camera. She told everyone she didn't love my dad but was there to get his money. According to her, my dad had dated her younger sister years back and had broken her heart, so she came for revenge for her late sister. She and her boyfriend had planned this all along to make my dad fall in love with her, pin a pregnancy on him, and have him will his assets to their son before they killed him. She already had bruises all over, and her eyes were swollen. My dad couldn't speak. He let us handle everything. My aunt forced Melinda to the police station where they made her reveal where her boyfriend was. She did, and he was arrested alongside her. Before they were taken to court, my aunt paid the cops to torture both of them for days. On the day of their hearing, they were both nearly unrecognizable. Melinda's face was all swollen, a bandage supporting her right hand, limping on her left leg and having another bandage around her ankle. Melinda was charged with attempted murder and fraud, while her boyfriend was tagged as her accomplice. They both got 15 years imprisonment each with no fine or bail option. I was impressed. After we left the court and went home, my dad apologized to everyone in tears.
I found comfort in her. After my wife's death, I was nearly depressed. I feel so bad for everything. Please, forgive me. Liz, I understand if you never forgive me, but I'll never stop apologizing for mistreating you.
It was hard to forgive him, but we did. As for Liz's child, we sent him to an orphanage because we couldn't let him live with us. My dad truly didn't stop apologizing. Even though I'd forgiven him, I felt relieved that he was living with the guilt of what he did. I understand that my mom's death affected him deeply, but it also affected me, and he should have been there for me. I don't hate him, but I feel rewarded seeing him live in guilt. I'm not a bad daughter, am I?
Honestly, no, sir, I don't. I definitely wasn't speeding. You think so? Well, you're wrong. You were going over the speed limit by 20 kilometers per hour. No, I wasn't. Well, I'm not lying. As a police officer, it is my job to uphold the law. So listen, you can pay half the fine now or the entire amount when you go to court. The ticket is $600. I only have $50 on me. Well, that isn't remotely enough. You need to take this seriously. Suddenly, the officer went around to the front of my car and took out his baton and smashed one of my front lights with it. You see, if you don't pay, then stuff like that happens. So now how much money do you have on you? I began to panic even more. I really only had $50 on me, and I wasn't sure what he was going to do to me when I revealed that. I'm sorry, but I really only have $50. Hey there. So I witnessed something I could not believe would happen outside of a movie. Honestly, I'm still amazed that someone could be so incredibly stupid but also clever. Here, let me explain. I was driving home from work one night, and I was very tired, so I really wasn't paying that close attention to how fast I was going. I was actually just keeping up with traffic when suddenly I heard the sounds of a police siren and saw flashing lights. My heart sank as I realized that I was getting pulled over by a cop. Reluctantly, I pulled over though and put my car in park and waited for the police officer to come over and speak with me. Looking through my mirrors at the cop car, I couldn't help but think that the police car looked a bit odd. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something about it seemed unusual. After a couple minutes, the cop got out and walked over to my car. Hey there, do you know why I pulled you over? Not really, officer. I was just on my way home from work. I don't think I was breaking any laws. Well, you would be wrong. My radar gun told me that you were going 30 kilometers per hour over the speed limit. What? There's no way I was going that fast. Are you calling me a liar? No, of course not. Well, you were. Now I'm going to write you a ticket for $850. No, please don't. I can't afford to pay that. Is that so? Well, step out of the car, please. I was in a panic, and so I did everything that I was told to, and I stepped out of my car. Well, how much money do you have on you? Well, I just got paid yesterday, so I have about $250 on me, but I need it for my bills. Well, you have two options. You can either give it to me, and we can cancel this ticket right here and now. Or I can write you up, and then you'll have to book a day off of work, and then pay $850. It's your choice. Can't you just let me off with a warning? That was when the cop threw me up against my car and lifted me off the ground by my shirt. Terrified what he might do next, I quickly grabbed my wallet and offered him the money, which he took, and then he drove off. The whole exchange felt completely weird, both because I had never heard of a cop demanding money for a ticket on the spot, but also threatening someone to pay as well. It felt very shady. The next day at work, I told some of my coworkers about what happened to me, and more than a few of them mentioned that something very similar happened to them on that stretch of highway. One of them even said that the guy's name was Officer Dudley, and that he had pulled my coworker over and demanded that he give him $400, or else he would be arrested on the spot. Of course, my coworker paid as he didn't want to have a criminal record, but the whole ordeal left him feeling very confused. It still didn't make sense, but knowing that I wasn't the only one to experience such a thing made me feel at least a bit less targeted. But again, hearing that my coworker was threatened to pay the fine or face jail felt odd. Again, it just felt nice to know that I wasn't the only one. That day, on my way home from work, I made sure to follow the speed limit, but in the same area that I was pulled over the previous time. I saw a cop car pull out and get behind me. When the siren went on and the lights were flashing, I was incredibly confused. After all, I wasn't speeding, so I wasn't sure why he had pulled me over. Sir, do you know why I pulled you over? Honestly, no, sir, I don't. I definitely wasn't speeding. You think so? Well, you're wrong. You were going over the speed limit by 20 kilometers per hour. No, I wasn't. Well, I'm not lying. As a police officer, it is my job to uphold the law. So listen, you can pay half the fine now or the entire amount when you go to court. The ticket is $600. I only have $50 on me. Well, that isn't remotely enough. You need to take this seriously. Suddenly, the officer went around to the front of my car and took out his baton and smashed one of my front lights with it. You see, if you don't pay, then stuff like that happens. So now how much money do you have on you? I began to panic even more. I really only had $50 on me, and I wasn't sure what he was going to do to me when I revealed that. I'm sorry, but I really only have $50. You worthless idiot. Fine. Give me the $50 and be on your way. But don't let me catch you driving up and down this highway anytime soon, or else I'll make sure you regret it. I'm terrified. I gave him the money I had on me and then sped away as quickly as I could. When I got home, I was shaking so much. However, it finally dawned on me. I could report him to his superiors. After all, no cop should be behaving the way that he was. He was acting above and beyond what he should, and so I called up the police station to file a formal complaint. When I called, they told me that no such Officer Dudley was employed by them, and that they had received several complaints about a man masquerading as a police officer, but that he wasn't one. They began to ask me questions about where I had seen him and what he looked like. I gave them the best description I could, and then told them that I had just seen him less than an hour ago, and that I was fairly certain that I knew the stretch of highway where I had been stopped by him twice. They told me that they would send out some undercover cops immediately. I waited 2 minutes, and then suddenly 2 unmarked cars pulled up near me, and some police officers that were wearing simple everyday clothes got out. They showed me their badges and identification in order to prove that they were who they said they were. They then went on to say that they needed me to go down that stretch of highway where I had seen Officer Dudley, and to be speeding when I do to lure him out. The undercover police would be following me at a safe distance, and when Dudley will make his move, that they would arrest him. I was uncertain, but it kind of sounded exciting to help the police catch this man who was impersonating them and harassing the public. And so I agreed, and within a few more minutes, I was driving down the highway, making sure to be speeding when I passed the area where I had seen Dudley before, and sure enough, I saw his car behind me with the sirens and lights going. As before, I pulled over and got ready for him to try to extort me for more money. And the second that he got out of his car and walked towards mine, the undercover cops pulled up behind him and jumped out and began to chase him. Frightened by this turn of events, Dudley turned and ran out into the woods that were on the side of the highway, and the cops chased after him. Alone by the highway, I grabbed a knife from the toolbox that I keep in the trunk of my car, and I punctured all of the tires on Dudley's fake police car, and then I went back to my own car. Just as I was about to get back into my own car, I saw Dudley jump out of the forest and ran straight to his car. As he jumped inside and hit the gas, the car swerved and drove a bit erratically. Seconds later, the police emerged from the forest as well, and then seeing Dudley try to drive away, they too jumped into their cars and chased after him. Of course, with all 4 tires flat, Dudley wasn't able to drive well, and he almost hit an old woman crossing the road. Dudley didn't make it very far, and the police used their cars to box him in and prevent him from driving away. Once his car was stopped, they smashed his windows and dragged him out of the car. From where I was, I could see him resisting arrest and fighting back, which made the actual police become more aggressive, and they used their batons to subdue him by beating him to pulp. He looked very black and blue, and was bleeding by the time that they were able to get handcuffs on him. Once he was in the back of a police car, the officers told me that I was free to go, but that they may need me to be a witness later during Dudley's trial. I agreed and went home, and I couldn't help but wonder what was to happen. A couple of weeks passed, and then I was contacted to appear in court. During the trial, I testified and spoke about my interactions with Dudley. After I did, the lawyers prosecuting the fake cop called in over 24 other people who all gave similar testimonies as I did. Apparently, he had been running this scam for weeks and was only caught because I called the real police on him. But during those weeks, Dudley had stolen tens of thousands of dollars from people and had physically assaulted many of them as well. If I hadn't called the police, then there is no telling how much longer his reign of terror would have lasted. In the end, the judge heard all the testimonies and ordered Dudley to pay back all the money that he had stolen from people plus interest. He then sentenced him to 20 years in prison for the crimes of impersonating an officer, assault, theft, extortion, and for resisting arrest as well. I was so relieved that he was facing such a harsh punishment, although I had never heard of anyone pulling something like that ever before. It was so outlandish, and I had never considered that someone would be so brazen as to pretend to be a cop to scam people out of their money. At least he is now behind bars and can't hurt or scam anyone else anymore. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment. My parents refused to let me bring my friends over, but his friends were allowed. Why is he allowed to bring his friends, but I'm not? It's our birthday, not just his. Well, you're a loser, George. Coming 6th makes you a loser. I understand our parents. Hear that, George? You're nothing but a loser. This birthday belongs to your brother, along with the coming ones.
When you finally get your senses back, you can have a birthday celebration.
And that was how I was left out of a birthday celebration with my twin. I was only allowed to take a picture with him. During the cake cutting, he did it with his fellow nerds, and they all took pictures with my parents. Meanwhile, I sat by the corner of the living room, wallowing in my sadness. After the celebration, my brother was allowed to spend the night at a friend's place. After they left, my parents made me clean the whole house, including the dirt my brother and his friends had left behind. My friends had gifts prepared for me. By the time I finished cleaning the whole house, it was nearly midnight. Hello? My name is George, and I'm 29 years old. I was born as a twin. We were both treated equally while we were toddlers, but once we got into junior high school, it changed. I wasn't so interested in education, so I simply did my best. However, my brother seemed obsessed with being a genius, so he took it seriously. My parents noticed the difference between us and immediately diverted their love and attention to my twin brother alone. Whenever we returned home with our results, they would face my twin and praise him for doing well, while I was left to myself. They stopped getting us matching outfits. While my brother wore designers and all, I was made to wear regular clothes. Many times they took him shopping and left me all alone at home. Because my brother was so hell-bent on making them continuously proud of him, he never made friends. At school, he was always alone, facing his books. And at home, he was either on his books or having naps. Me, on the other hand, believed in making friends. My parents thought I was irresponsible for making friends and not being a genius like my brother, even though I always maintained being in the top 5.
You stupid child! Your brother is studying hard in his room and all you can think of is going off to your friend's place?
Are you gonna waste your life with those friends of yours? Or are you going to get back in and start studying? I turned and headed back in. Forcefully, I grabbed my books and began going through them. However, before I could finish the second one, I fell asleep. My mother came in to meet me asleep, and her loud voice woke me up.
Get your lazy ass up, you good-for-nothing! How dare you fall asleep while reading? Are you cursed?
My father came in, hearing her voice, and my mother explained it all to him. I sincerely regret birthing you. Your brother should have been born alone. You don't deserve to be called his twin. Although not reading regularly didn't affect my results, my parents were obsessed with reading. They continued being that way, and it even worsened as we grew up. On our 15th birthday, the cake had only my brother's face on it. My parents refused to let me bring my friends over, but his friends were allowed. Why is he allowed to bring his friends, but I'm not? It's our birthday, not just his. Well, you're a loser, George. Coming 6th makes you a loser. I understand our parents. Hear that, George? You're nothing but a loser. This birthday belongs to your brother, along with the coming ones.
When you finally get your senses back, you can have a birthday celebration.
And that was how I was left out of a birthday celebration with my twin. I was only allowed to take a picture with him. During the cake cutting, he did it with his fellow nerds, and they all took pictures with my parents. Meanwhile, I sat by the corner of the living room, wallowing in my sadness. After the celebration, my brother was allowed to spend the night at a friend's place. After they left, my parents made me clean the whole house, including the dirt my brother and his friends had left behind. My friends had gifts prepared for me. By the time I finished cleaning the whole house, it was nearly midnight. I asked my parents if I could also have a sleepover at my friend's, but they refused, saying it was too late to leave the house. Mind you, my friend's house was only 5 houses away from ours. No matter how much I begged, they refused. I had to return to my room after they threatened to hit me. My brother returned quite late the next day. My father, without complaining, drove my brother to school in his car before heading to work, while I was made to use public transport. 2 months later, my grandfather moved in with us. He's the best gift nature brought to me. Barely a week with us, and he noticed the favoritism going on. One day, while we were having dinner, he brought the issue up. My father was quick to defend himself. "He's just a member of the family to us, Father. Nothing else. He's proven that he doesn't deserve to be part of us." "Yes, Grandpa. Could you believe that George came 6th? Mom and Dad always wanted him to move up to the 2nd position in the top 5, but he worsened the whole issue by coming 6th. He's a loser."
He surely is a loser. We're going to focus only on his twin. He can make his life as useless as he wants. All he knows is to go over with friends and try to cook.
"That's the craziest part, Grandfather." "It is. I don't think he's ready for life. So, we're gonna take care of only his brother, our very good son." I could see the look of surprise in my grandfather's eyes as his fork dropped from his hands. "You're treating your child this badly because he came 6th? Meanwhile, I checked the photo album, and for their 15th birthday celebration, I could only find one of George's pictures. What happened? "Oh, I celebrated it with my friends, Grandpa. Since George took 6th, we thought we shouldn't celebrate him. The twin who topped the class was our son, his brother. And George isn't your son, right? I'm sorry, but you're all being so unfair to him." With that, my grandfather stormed out of the dining room. 2 weeks later, it was time for him to leave. But before then, he called me to his room to discuss with him. I wondered what he wanted to talk about, but I heeded his call. "You'll be in college soon. Have you thought about what you'd like your future to be?" I replied that I had, and it was true. I wanted to be a renowned chef. I was always trying to help my mom cook something so I could, at least, know the basics, but she always refused and yelled at me to leave the kitchen. My grandfather asked if I was sure about pursuing that profession, and I responded that I was. Rather than going to college, I'd love to be at a cooking academy. "Your parents will never approve of this. After your graduation, I'm going to take you to start living with me." I knew my parents would never agree, so you can imagine the joy in my heart when I realized that I'd be able to pursue my dream of being a chef. The months flew by quickly, and I finished my high school education. On our graduation ceremony day, my parents refused to let me attend. "You're going to disgrace us if they don't announce you among the top 5. Stay back at home."
You have no business being there. Your brother is the only one we want to be recognized with, not with a loser like you.
"Have fun alone at home, bro." I was sad, but there was nothing I could do. I had a small phone, even though my brother had a huge and expensive one. I texted my friends and told them I won't be able to attend. They were sad, but I assured them that I was fine. I called my grandfather and told him about it. He asked me to get my things ready so that he would come take me the next day. I was tired of having to endure their mistreatment, so I quickly packed all my things in 3 boxes. The moment I finished, I heard loud noises from outside the house. As I walked out to check, I found some hefty men bringing a newly bought car in with decorations around it. I needed no magician to tell me the car was my brother's. When they returned home, it was confirmed that it did belong to my brother. While I stood there and watched, they all celebrated him. The car's key was handed to him, and he was allowed to leave with his friends in the new car. My parents finally walked into the house, not saying a word to me. I decided to speak first. Grandpa asked me to pack my things. He'd be coming down to take me tomorrow.
Well, good for you.
"We don't need you here. I'm glad he's taking you away." I was hurt by their words, but I didn't say a word. The next day, as promised, my grandpa came over to the house and took me. "I'm taking him to Italy. You both can focus on the twin for all I care, but you'll surely miss him." "Miss him? Never. Please take him away."
Yes, take him. No one sees him worthy enough in this house. Matter of fact, I'm tired of seeing his face every day, and I'm sure my husband and son are too.
My grandfather, without exchanging words with them, left the house with me. We relocated to Italy, where he registered me into the best cooking academy. We both got new jobs to help us push through together. While working hard at my job, I channeled the same energy into the academy. Within 2 months, I was regarded as the best student by the top chef herself. I graduated after 3 years, and I was given a position at the academy to be a tutor. I did my job as diligently as I could. I'd found my place, so I ensured to do my best. With the money I made, I was able to relocate my grandfather and I into a better apartment. I also stopped him from working and put him on a monthly salary. After a year, I opened my first restaurant. Once it began doing well, I began my college education to get a degree in marketing. During these years, we heard nothing about my parents and brother. By the time I was done with my college education, I had 2 restaurants which were doing extremely well. I worked just as hard in college and emerged with an outstanding degree. I applied for a job as a marketing manager in a food company, and I was employed easily. I introduced my restaurants to them, and seeing how high I'd pushed it, agreed to partner with me. At age 27, I purchased a mansion and moved in with my grandfather. I took care of him in every way possible and made sure he never lacked anything, including affection. A year ago, I got a call from an unknown caller. I had my PA take care of the call, with the thought that it was from a client, but it turned out to be my twin brother. According to him, my parents' health was failing. He'd sold the house to take care of them, but money was still needed. His friends had abandoned him long ago, and no one was agreeing to help. He was working as a bartender, but it wasn't enough to help them. Own it home, bro. I've heard how rich you are. We're your family. I want you to forget the past and help us. Also, put me in charge of your restaurants. I'm more brilliant than you, and I'll make it even better. He still had his ego and the entitlement my parents had planted in him. Anyway, I refused to help him and told him I wanted nothing to do with them before I hung up. Reaching home, I told my grandfather about it, and he made me promise to not help them. Of course, I had no plan to. A few months later, my brother called again to inform me about the death of my parents. This time, he was a little humble and begging for a job, but I still refused. Go get a job with your perfect brain and stop calling me who you considered nothing but a loser, I warned, and that was the last time I heard from him. I later found out my brother was serving time in jail. From what I hear, the police got a tip that he sold drugs and searched his house. 2 kilos of it was found, and he was taken to jail. Apparently, he started taking drugs and selling it to make ends meet, but that only landed him in jail serves him right. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment. You stupid girl. You're just like your mother. I knew it was a bad idea letting a woman so low to marry my precious son. Stop crying, stupid. Your voice makes my skin crawl.
Yes, that's my father-in-law, Mr. Roberts. My name is Rosaline, and I've been married to my husband, Christopher, for 8 years. We have 2 kids together, aged 6 and 4. Our first child, Jack, was born 2 years after our wedding, and his sister, Michelle, was born 2 years after him. We're planning to relocate our family to the UK after living with my in-law in their mansion for the whole 8 years. Christopher is a medical doctor, while I'm a nurse. He attended a well-known medical school, while I attended an average one. We met during our interview at the hospital we both worked at, and immediately connected. We only dated for about 6 months before Christopher and I decided that we were ready to get married. On the day he took me to his parents, I knew there would be problems. His kind mother liked me instantly, but I couldn't say the same for his father.
What job do you do, young lady?
I'm a nurse at the same hospital where Christopher works, sir.
Oh? What school did you attend?
The moment I answered that question, he changed.
That's an average school. Are your parents poor?
Honestly, my parents, before their death, weren't wealthy, but they did the best they could for me. They died after I graduated from high school, so I had to do part-time jobs to see myself through college. When I told my father-in-law that, he flared up.
What? An orphan? How dare you think I will accept this marriage, Christopher? She not only attended a school below our standard, she's also an orphan. I love Rose, father. Please, don't talk down on her and give us your blessings.
It took quite a long time before Mr. Roberts eventually allowed us to get married. I knew he hated me, but my mother-in-law's kindness was enough for me. At the wedding, when it was time to give his speech, he took his time to embarrass me as much as he wanted.
Honestly, I'd wanted a better girl for my son. I worked my ass off to gain this wealth. I also made sure to send my son to the best medical school. So it's quite a shame that he's decided to marry a girl that's not only a poor orphan, but also below his league. Anyway, since they claim to love each other, do I have a choice to oppose?
I was utterly embarrassed, but I held it all in with a smile. Before the wedding, my father-in-law had asked us to live with him in his mansion. His reason:
You're both busy. It would be better to have your family here with us. We'll take care of the kids while you're away.
I thought it was a great suggestion, so we agreed. After our honeymoon, we began living with them. My father-in-law was even worse. He would intentionally bring his friends over while I was off duty at the hospital.
This is my daughter-in-law. I'm quite ashamed as she went to a low-class college, but what can a father do? My son wanted a classless woman.
Right in my face, he would join hands with his friends to mock me. I took it in as I respected him. When I had Jack, my father-in-law was the happiest.
He has such a striking resemblance with me and his father. My boy.
I was glad. He didn't like me, but he loved my son. It was enough for me. Whenever I wasn't home, he would take care of Jack. He made sure my son never lacked anything. Although he still made fun of my educational level every opportunity he got, I was consoled by the fact that he loved my son. However, I was mistaken. I realized that when I had my second child, Michelle.
A girl? Ugh, she looks so much like her poor mother. It would have been better if she looked like me or Christopher.
How could he make such a comment about a newly born? I was angry, but I let it slide. As the children grew up, my father-in-law got worse. He showed it to the kids who his favorite grandkid was. Often, I would return from work to meet my daughter isolated in the living room, while my son was with his grandfather. I was sad, but I knew there was nothing I could do. Christopher noticed his father's behavior one day, when the man left home for their day trip and returned home on the third day with only a gift for Jack.
Grandfather, didn't you get one for Michelle? She loves chocolate too.
My father-in-law dismissed his question with a smile. My son crawled to his sister after my father-in-law left and offered her some of his.
Are you sad about what grandfather did?
No, I know grandfather doesn't like me.
I was broken. The child knew he didn't like her. That was a shame. That day, Christopher and I took the kids out for ice cream. We also made them play games and do everything they wanted together. When we returned home and put the children to sleep, Christoph and I decided to have a question about it. He hates her because she looks like me. He could just punish me. Why does he have to involve my child? It's so unfair. I was getting close to tears. It was so sad that he was being that way to my daughter.
I think you should quit your job, honey. I earn enough to take care of us all, so you can quit. You can be able to watch over the kids yourself and stop my dad's favoritism.
Do I have to quit? Can't you just talk to him about it? I love being a nurse. I can't quit my job. We thought for a while, and Christopher had another suggestion.
I'll speak to Mother then. She'll help with Michelle whenever Father takes Jack.
I didn't like that it had to resort to that. I didn't want to separate my kids. I wanted them to grow up having each other's back and loving themselves. Do we have to make the kids be raised that way? Your father's going to influence our son soon? Is that when we're going to actually make a move towards stopping him?
I have plans, Rose. I plan to move our family to the UK. That's why I'm working so hard. Please understand.
I agreed, and we spoke to my mother-in-law. She advised us to work harder and leave quickly before my father-in-law succeeded in making my son like him. Christopher and I worked 2 times harder. While we worked, the few times we were home, we always reminded our kids about the need to love each other and never let anyone come between them. Jack was smart. I knew he loved his sister, but he was still a kid and could be swayed, so we continuously worked on preventing that from happening. My mother-in-law also helped. Whenever we weren't available, she brought the kids together to remind them of the need to always love and protect each other. Once, during Thanksgiving, while I was preparing the food, my father-in-law walked into the kitchen to meet Jack and I there. Jack loved to watch me cook.
What? How dare you bring my grandson in here?
He's my son, father, and my son loves to watch me cook. I don't see how that's a problem.
It is a problem, Rosaline. My grandson does not belong to the kitchen. Your daughter should be here, not my precious grandson.
Why? He wants to be here.
Well, I don't care. I'm taking him with me. You can call that child of yours who looks as greedy and poor as you to be in the kitchen.
I watched as he picked up Jack and took him away. My mother-in-law soon walked in.
Pay no attention to his words, darling. I'll be here with you.
Together, we prepared the meal. 2 months later, my son celebrated his 6th birthday. My father-in-law got him the best gifts. However, for my daughter's 4th birthday, she didn't get even as much as a wish from him. My husband, her brother, my mother-in-law, and I made it memorable for her. We got her as many colorful gifts as we could get, and showered her with wishes and birthday songs. Christopher and I already got a house in the UK and were processing our travel documents. Only my mother-in-law was aware about it. 2 months later, it was my grandfather's birthday. I was slicing the cakes in the kitchen when I heard him yelling. Alerted, I quickly dropped the knife and dashed upstairs to where his voice sounded from, which was his room.
You stupid girl. You're just like your mother. I knew it was a bad idea letting a woman so low to marry my precious son. Stop crying, stupid. Your voice makes my skin crawl.
I felt furious. How could he say they to a 4-year-old? Worst of it, my daughter was in tears, staring at the floor. I felt my heart sink. My husband and mother-in-law came in too. I was about to speak, but my son beat me to it.
Why are you being unfair to Michelle, grandfather? She only asked if you wanted to play with her, and you hit her and said all that. Do you hate her, grandfather?
My heart sank even deeper. My young son had noticed his bitterness toward my daughter, whose only offense was to look like her mother.
Yes, I hate her. I only love you, Jack. Your sister's good for nothing. She's just like your mother. They're both useless.
That's enough, Mr. Roberts. How dare you say that to my children's faces? Are you so shameless?
You know, Father, I've tolerated how hostile and unfair you've been toward my daughter. How dare you think you can try to separate my kids? Kids, Jack is your only child. You should kick this poor woman and her child out. They don't deserve you. The girl is going to grow up like her mother, stupid and foolish.
That's enough from you, Roberts. Are you insane? You've been this way from the time we got married. You even made me abort our second child because you thought she would grow up to become like me. Now that's enough. I won't let you tear my son's family apart.
He was furious, hearing his wife speak so boldly. As he raised his hand to slap her, Christopher stopped him.
Not anymore, you evil man. I won't let you hit her anymore. You hear me?
I grabbed my kids.
Grandfather is a bad man. He doesn't like Michelle and wants me to hate her too.
You should be ashamed, Mr. Roberts. That day, we took our things and headed to a hotel. My mother-in-law followed. She'd had enough and was going to divorce him. Christopher and I worked on getting transferred, while my mother-in-law worked on their divorce. 2 months after staying at the hotel, we all left for the UK, excluding my father-in-law. My mother-in-law had gotten half his properties from their divorce. She sold it all to start a fresh life in the UK. She got a house of her own and started a clothing line there, while Christopher and I worked harder. We had a trusted maid who looked after our kids. It'd been 10 years now. We heard my father-in-law had stroke, and even at the hospital, he wasn't so kind to the nurses, and so the nurses treated him horribly. He ended up dying alone. We've been at peace, and our kids are growing with love. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.